Girl, hey, it's Station A, and today I have a little story time for you guys. This happened this past weekend, and it is currently Monday when I'm filming this. So this all happened like within the last 2 to 3 days. So I'm gonna try to make sure the story is cohesive and I don't miss anything, but I'm still very much processing all of this. And so if I miss things or if things are like jumbled and I have to like restart my story or like be like, oh, I forgot to mention this, like that's why. It's all like a jumble in my head and I'm trying to like process all of it. I've also been drinking a little wine because I feel slightly traumatized. It's not funny. It's not funny. I feel slightly traumatized from this weekend, and so I'm trying to deal with it in healthy ways via talking about it with friends and then just sharing my experiences with you guys because that's really healing for me. But also like, a girl just needs a glass of wine because this weekend was a doozy. Okay, let's get into it. This past weekend, I went to see my ex-boyfriend. I made a TikTok earlier this week and I was like, if you see me with my favorite ex, like mind your business. Stupidest I've ever said in my entire life. Stupidest I've ever said in my entire life. So this man I've known for 10 years at this point. I met him when I was 18 or 19 in college. We dated all throughout college, or for at least 3 years because he was a year older than me, so we broke up after he graduated. But off and on for the last 10 years, like we've always been in each other's lives. He would come to see me when I lived in Pittsburgh, or like we would just talk or FaceTime. Like we've always stayed in each other's lives. I've genuinely always felt like this man was the love of my life. Like when I was telling my roommates, oh, I'm going to see him, I was saying to them like, he's my ex, but I genuinely feel like this man is like the love of my life. I don't feel that way anymore. I don't feel that way anymore at all. So anyway, I leave out on Friday after work. I just went to Philadelphia. He lives in Philadelphia, so I just took the train from New York City to Philadelphia. And when I first got there Friday night and I like saw him and got into his car, I felt very awkward. But I was just like, I hadn't seen him in 3 years or spoken to him. We had FaceTimed earlier in the week. And he was like, hey, if you want to come see me, or I can come see you in New York. And I was like, oh, look, I'll come see you in Philadelphia. Because I felt like he had always come to me in the past. So I was like, maybe I'll go to him this time. And the tickets were like $60. So I was like, whatever. But anyway, it was the first time we had seen each other in like 3 years. So it was a little awkward. And I was like, maybe it's just awkward because, you know, we haven't seen each other in so long. So anyway, we get to his apartment. And the ride from the train station to his apartment, like, things started to like loosen up a little bit. So I was like, okay, maybe it's just like first sight jitters. Like I don't know. We hadn't seen each other in so long, so I was just like, I don't know. We get to his apartment and we're just talking. We took a few shots, and things like were starting to loosen up. So I was like, okay, cool. Like this is good. Whatever. We start like kissing or whatever, and we start to, yeah, you know, y'all are grown. Y'all know what the I'm talking about. We start to do that, and mid doing that, he's like, we have to stop. And I was just like, okay, like immediately, obviously. And he's like, starts like breathing heavy and he's like, is panicking. And I'm like, is everything okay? Like, what's going on? He's like, I have to ask you something, but it's only because I care about you. And I'm like, okay, like what? And he's like, are you eating? Like, are you being healthy? And I'm like, yeah, like, why are you asking me this? He's like, you're like 30 pounds lighter than the last time that I saw you. Like, your body looks a lot different. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, what the is he talking about? I haven't seen him in 3 years. I'm like, to say that I've lost weight or my body has gone through these drastic changes, just, it like, doesn't make sense to me. Like, I haven't done anything. I eat regularly, like, nothing. I've never had an issue, thankfully. I've never had an issue with like my body or eating or anything like that. And this man has known me for 10 years. And in those 10 years, he's never known me to struggle with anything like that. So I was like, no, I'm fine. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, no, like your body is a lot different. You look a lot different. You've lost at least 30 pounds. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, what the is he talking about? Like, no, I haven't. Like, nothing is different. And I was like, I said that to him. I was like, I don't feel as though I look that different from the last time you saw me. Granted, it's been 3 years, but my body since 7th grade has always been pretty consistent. Like I haven't grown an inch since 7th grade. I've always been around the same weight. Like, yeah, it's fluctuated a little bit, but obviously I'm not going to weigh what I did in high school. But it hasn't changed drastically. So I was just like, I don't feel like I look any different or that different from the last time you saw me. He looks at me and he goes, that makes it worse. Like, you don't even recognize that your body is changing so much. And I'm like, what the are you talking about? So I immediately like get dressed because I'm like, I don't want this man looking at my body anymore. And I said to him, I'm like, you're making me uncomfortable. I started to cry. I walk away from him because I'm uncomfortable. I get dressed and I'm like, I don't even want to be in this apartment right now. I get dressed and I get my shoes on and I say to him, like, I'm just like, I need a minute. And so I go to like leave his apartment. He's like, wait, no, like, I'm sorry. Don't leave, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, like, I need a minute. So I go outside, I call my best friend and I like explain to her what happened or whatever. And I'm like questioning myself at this point because I'm like, am I doing something wrong? Like, is my body changing? Like, am I being unhealthy? My best friend is like, Dejanay, like, you don't look unhealthy. Your weight looks fine. Your body looks fine. I've always been pretty confident in myself, but I feel like in the last like year and a half, even though I haven't been working out, I've never felt more comfortable in my body and the way that I look. Like, body is tea, okay, bitch? Body is tea. Face card's not declining. Like, I've never been this confident in myself ever. And so the fact, like, he just made me feel so just low and like the lowest my confidence has been in like a year and a half. So I'm talking to my friend and she's like telling me like, Dejanay, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with your body. There's nothing wrong with you. Like, you're in great shape. You're okay. So I'm like, I want to go home. Like, at this point, I've been with him for like 2.5, max 3 hours. And I'm like, I want to go home. And this was Saturday night, this was Friday night, early Saturday morning. It was at like 1 a.m. And I'm like, I want to go home. Like, I don't want to be here. I feel uncomfortable. So I'm like talking to my friend or whatever. And he calls me and he's like, hey, like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. So I go back into his apartment and I'm like, I'm tired. I just want to go to bed. Cause he, like, when I went back into his apartment, he's like, can we talk about this? Like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I don't want to talk about it. I go to bed, wake up the next day, and he's like, I'm really sorry for last night. And blah, blah, blah. Like, he's like, I'm really sorry for last night. Like, I know that I made you feel uncomfortable. That wasn't my intention. I just want to make sure you're being healthy. I'm just like, nothing's wrong with me. Like, I'm eating a healthy amount. I don't technically work out, but I live in New York City, so I'm walking everywhere. So I'm like, I don't feel as though I look that different or I've changed in the last 3 years that you've seen me. And he says to me, he goes, well, I just recently got out of a relationship, which he had told me. Like I said, we FaceTimed a little bit earlier in the week to talk about like me coming to see him. And he had told me, he said, I got out of a relationship recently. But I had spoken to him in December of 2023, okay? And he told me that he had just gotten out of a relationship. So I figured that that's what he was talking about. And I remember when we were on FaceTime and he's like, oh, I just got out of the relationship. And I was like, oh yeah, in December, like, remember we talked about this? And he said to me, yeah, like, he agreed with me, like, we had already discussed him getting out of this relationship in December. So he's like, yeah, like, I was dating this girl. We were dating for like 2 years and she's a little bit on the thicker side. So I think, you know, contrasting her body with your body, like, that is like where I got a little freaked out. But he goes, but also your body has changed a lot. And I'm like, that's it. That's it. You are comparing me and my body to your ex-girlfriend, which is not okay. Because I know that there's like the non-anxious brain of me knew that there was nothing, like, my body had not changed that much. But with him being so certain that my body has changed, it made me like sort of gaslight myself a little bit, like, okay, maybe my body has changed. But then when he was telling me, like, oh, like the girl that I was dating previously is a little bit thicker and your body's a little bit thinner, I was like, that's what it is. Like, you're trying to convince me that my body has changed, when in reality, you're just not over your ex and you're comparing me to your ex. So he goes on and he's like talking about like their relationship a little bit. And I'm like, if you don't mind me asking, like, when did you guys break up? And I'm expecting this man to say, oh, December. This man looks at me and he says, oh, we just broke up April 1st. April 1st. Today when I'm filming this video, it is May 13th. When him and I had this conversation, May 11th, okay? So you've been broken up for a little over a month. And you've now invited me here knowing that you're not in a good place and that you're not over your ex. So I look at him and I go, I'm confused, because is this a new girl that you were dating? Or is this the girl, like, you, last time I knew, you had ended a relationship in December. And he was like, no, it's the same girl. Like, we broke up in December, got back together in January, and then we just broke up again in April. And I'm thinking, like, what the am I doing here? Why would you invite me here knowing that your breakup is that fresh? Why would you ever allow me to come here? I'm like in a state of shock. Like, I'm just like, I'm like, there's no way that this guy that I've known for the entirety of my adult life would ever put me in a situation like this. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, in a state of shock, not even able to like put thoughts into words, trying to understand what the I'm doing here. And then I think he could see, like I said, he knows me very well. We've known each other for a very long time. So I think he could kind of see, even though I wasn't saying it with my words, my face, like, that's just how I am too. Like, if I'm not saying it with my words, I'm saying it with my face. Like, that's just the type of person that I am. But he looks at me and he goes, yeah, I think maybe I was a little bit selfish with asking you to come here. And I'm like, you don't say, like, what the actual So he's like, I would still like to, because even though we've been broken up for however long we've been broken up, I don't even know at this point. Like I said, we've still been in each other's lives. Like, he's come to see me, we've been talking, and anytime he's come to see me, we would, you know, do the thing that exes do. So he was like, I would still like to do that with you. And I'm like, no, I don't feel as though I want to even touch you right now. One, because you've made me feel uncomfortable in my body and I don't like the way that I feel. And two, you're clearly very much in the thick of your breakup. You're in the thick of your emotions. You are still actively thinking about your ex, which is fine. Like, when you're that fresh into a relationship, of course you're still thinking about the person that you just recently broken up with. But I don't want to even go there with you knowing that another girl is on your mind. Like, that's crazy to me. And I'm just like, no, like, I'm not gonna do that with you. I tried to change my ticket, but I couldn't change it. The only way that I could get an earlier ticket would be to cancel my one and then buy another one, which I should have made him pay for, now that I think about it. But I was like, not doing that with you. Why don't we just finish out this trip as trying to be friends? And so we agreed to finish up the trip and try to be friends. But at that point, I was so checked out. Like, he would try to talk to me or joke with me or do anything, and I was just like I was there physically. Mentally, the only thing I could do was count down the time until I was able to go home. And I think he could obviously tell that I was uncomfortable, because he would go from trying to be like jokey silly with me to trying to like talk about what had happened Friday night. And at that point, for me, it just felt like he either wanted to talk about it to kind of make himself feel better, because he knew that he made me uncomfortable. So he wanted to talk about it to make himself not feel as shitty as he was. And I just felt like I was at a point where I was like, I didn't want to talk about it with him. Like, I just felt like, you're the one who hurt me And like, not even like he hurt me, but he knew, like, intentionally hurt me. That's what it felt like to me, because it's like, you knew when you broke up with your girlfriend, you knew that it was the beginning of April, not December like I thought. So you lied to me. You knew when you broke up with her, you knew that you were still feeling the way that you're feeling, and you still allowed me to come here. Extremely selfish thing to do, and he knew that that was an extremely selfish thing to do. So I felt like he just kept trying to like get me to talk about it to make himself feel better. And at that point I was like, I shouldn't have to sit here and say to you, hey, this thing that you did was f***ed up. This man is a very smart man, okay? He's very intelligent. I've known him for years. I know that he's a smart cookie. So I felt like I shouldn't have to sit here and explain to you why what you've done is wrong. You know what you've done is wrong. And I don't need to sit here and try to make you feel better and talk about something that I don't want to talk about with you. Because at that point, like, I was texting my friend the whole time I was there, just like processing it with her and then processing it within myself. That I was like, I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you my feelings. I don't owe you a conversation. You don't deserve a conversation, because you know what you've done right now is up. I don't have to tell you that this is up. You know that this is up. So I would just be like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, blah, blah, blah. But I think he could obviously tell that, like, I was not okay. This is really crooked and it's pissing me off. I think he could tell that I wasn't okay. But at the same time, like, obviously, yeah, I wasn't okay, but he didn't deserve a conversation. That's how I felt. I was like, you know what you've done is wrong. I don't have to sit here and tell you that you know it's wrong. Like, you know it's wrong. We finish off the weekend. It's finally Sunday. We're in the car, and he's like, I just want to let you know, like, I love you, and the only reason that I said something about your body is because I care about you, and I just want to make sure that you're okay. And I love you. And I was just like, appreciate it. Because at that point, I was like, you didn't say that from a place of you care about me. You said that because you were comparing me to your ex-girlfriend. And that's f***ed up. That's so f***ed up. Like, you knew in your brain that you were not ready to hang out with someone, which is fine. You literally just ended your relationship 12 seconds ago. Don't tell me, hey, you can come visit me, when you know that you're not in a good place for me to come and visit you. It's just so weird, because he was like, I love you. And I genuinely, like, couldn't even say I love you back, because I feel like this weekend, any remaining feelings that I had, experiencing that as the person that I am now, it like cleared up all of my feelings. Like, that's like, I genuinely don't feel like I don't hate him, but I don't love him anymore either. And that's the craziest thing, because I genuinely felt like this man was the love of my life. I was telling my roommates, this man is the love of my life. And at this point, I'm just like, I feel nothing for you. Like, I feel absolutely nothing for you. And it's like, I've grown so much in the last 3 years that it's like, after this happened, I was just thinking, and I was just like, this was a very selfish thing for him to do, right? To put me in a situation like that. But also, like, thinking back onto our relationship, he's always been pretty selfish. And so, like, yeah, I'm upset with him for doing that, but I've also, like, I'm upset with myself because I feel like I've put myself in that situation. I've taught him that he can be selfish with me and not take my feelings or how a situation is going to affect me into account, because anytime in the past where he's been selfish, he's just been like, oh, I've been selfish, sorry. And I've always just been like, oh, it's okay. And then it happens again. He does something, he says that it's selfish, he apologizes, and I forgive him. Happens again. He does something, says that he realizes that it's selfish, he apologizes, and I forgive him. Like, it's this crazy cycle. But I've gotten to the point now where it's like, you can't just say that you're sorry and that makes it okay. It's not okay. And you know that what you're doing is selfish, because thinking about our relationship in the past, like, you've been selfish. You've kind of always been selfish with me. And I've always just allowed it. But the person that I am now just won't allow that. And I just can't allow people to be disrespectful with me or not take my feelings into account when I've always taken their feelings into account. Was it incredibly stupid of me to go to Philadelphia this past weekend and see him? Yes, but I just feel like I was telling my friend I needed this past weekend, but not in the way that I thought. I needed this. Like, this was such an eye-opener for me, and it like single-handedly allowed me to be like, this is not my person. This is not the love of my life, because the love of my life would never treat me like this. Anyways, I say all that to say, don't spin the block on your exes. They're exes for a reason, and don't forget the reason. When you learn the reason, don't forget it. And when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Yeah, so that's the story time on my past weekend and going to see my ex. Never again. I don't want to see that man. I don't want to talk to that man. I feel as though, I genuinely feel like this single-handedly healed me. Just like, I'm good. Like, I don't need to talk to you. I don't need to yell at you, because it's not going to do anything. You know what I mean? Like, I could say everything that I've said right now, I could say to him. But again, he's a very smart person, and he knows exactly what he did. He knows that it was wrong. So me saying this to him isn't going to help me. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. I'm being the selfish one. I don't care if he like has jumbled, confused thoughts about this weekend or doesn't really know how I felt about it. Like, that means nothing to me. I'm being selfish now and just thinking about myself. Lesson learned. Do not contact your exes. Do not go see your exes. They are exes for a reason. Okay? Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. But only do those things if you realize that your ex is an ex for a reason. Okay? If you don't know that for sure, don't worry about it. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace and love. Talk to you later.